Mr. President, I rise to thank my Senate colleagues for supporting this resolution memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim May 2nd, 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Day in the state of New York. We are also being joined today by some special guests with the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and I want to acknowledge them as well. The executive director of this coalition, Connie Neal, also the director of public policy and advocacy, Joan Gerhardt, and Brittany Galati, who is the public policy coordinator, have joined us in the chamber this morning. So I want to share a few stats that further underscore why taking the time today to lift up this important day of awareness is so critical and integral for us here in New York and nationally. More than 10 million people are physically abused by an intimate partner each year nationwide. Domestic violence impacts people from all social groups, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, gender identity, sex, sexual orientation, ethnicity, or age. It does not discriminate. And while domestic violence, as I said, does not discriminate, its effects are experienced disproportionately by some groups, including women, especially Black women and Black men, and the LGBTQIA+ community. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence, and 1 in 10 will be raped by an intimate partner. 45% of Black women and 40% of Black men experience intimate partner physical violence, sexual violence, or stalking in their lifetimes. 44% of lesbian women and 26% of gay men experience rape, physical violence, or stalking, and 54% of the transgender community has experienced some form of intimate partner violence with heightened levels of violence for transgender women of color. Domestic violence doesn't just stop with adults, it also impacts our children. Domestic violence impacts children and youth, with 21% of female-identifying high school students and 13% of male-identifying high school students reporting abuse by a dating partner. The 1 in 15 children in the U.S. who witness intimate partner violence in their homes are 3 times more likely to engage in violent behavior as their peers. And it goes back to the idea of constant, ongoing exposure to trauma and the impacts of that. Survivors of domestic violence experience health, mental health issues as a result of their trauma. Here in New York, we have some of the greatest demand for domestic violence support services in the country. And I would be remiss if not only that we didn't acknowledge the work of this great coalition, New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, but our own agency, the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence, which is led by Kelly Owens, and all the great work that they're doing across our state to raise awareness and, more importantly, take actions as it pertains to this important issue. We must continue to work to increase support for survivors and domestic violence support services to ensure that survivors have safety and the ability to heal. As the chair of our Women's Issues Committee in the Senate, and more importantly as a member of this chamber, I am honored to be voting in favor of this resolution, and I hope my colleagues will join me by voting aye. Thank you so much.